On the 7th of October 2023, Hamas launched a murderous assault on Israeli civilians, killing 1,400 of them and taking over 200 civilians hostage. The very next day, the Houthis from Yemen and Hezbollah from Lebanon opened up two fronts against Israel. Since then, these Iranian proxies have been firing drones and rockets at Israel. But now, just days short of the one-year anniversary of that 2023 attack, Israeli forces have nearly destroyed Hamas, decapitated Hezbollah, and are now attacking the Houthis. Is this a fight to the finish for Israel? Is this what they call the mowing of the grass? How soon can these proxies recover? Will there be a ground assault into Lebanon by the Israeli Defense Forces? And most importantly, how will Iran retaliate to all of this? Joining me to discuss this are Itai Melchior, live from Israel, Ambassador Suresh Goyal, Major General V.K. Datta, and in the studio with me is my colleague Deepak Badana. Gentlemen, welcome to the News9 Plus show. Itai, I want to start by reading out what you told me at the News9 Plus show just a few months ago, where you said that Israel will not attack Iranian civilians, but there were several options that you had to target Iran. All options were on the table, including cyber. And now we're talking a few months after what you said. We've seen pager blasts in Lebanon targeting the Hezbollah on the 17th of September. And on the 25th of September, you have this unprecedented air-to-ground strike which assassinated Hassan Nasrallah of the Hezbollah. How significant is the assassination of the Hezbollah chief, Hassan Nasrallah? Is Hezbollah finished as a terrorist organization?
So it's a good question. The optimist among us will say, yes, this is a severe blow. It's not only the attack on Nasrallah himself, it's the entire command that mostly has been wiped out, and also other capabilities on the ground, firing capabilities that have been taken away, the closure more or less of the border to Syria, where a lot of their ammunition and other things come from. But that said, the pessimist will look back to the targeted killing of his predecessor almost 30 years, around 30 years ago. So no, the killing of Nasrallah is not the end of Hezbollah as we know it. You have to remember that Hezbollah is not an organization that stands by itself. It is supported by Iran. It is funded by Iran, more or less gets its orders from Iran, even though you could argue if Nasrallah wasn't a bit too complacent in Lebanon and was less a doer of the instructions from Iran. I'm not even sure that they're not happy maybe that he's out of the way and maybe be able to put in someone who's more militant than he proved to be over the last few years.
Absolutely. And I'm going to ask you a quick follow-up question to that. Will there be a ground assault into Lebanon, Itai, now that Hezbollah has been decapitated? Do you see the need for that ground assault which Israel has been threatening to launch into southern Lebanon? Or is it mission accomplished now?
So first, according to some sources, we know that there have been minor excursions into Lebanon for intelligence, for disabling a few of the capabilities. But a full-blown invasion, I still think, is not on the table. It's not anybody's wish. It's not Israel's wish. What Israel wishes is for its civilians to safely return to their homes. Remember, almost 100,000 civilians have now spent almost a year away from their homes, and many of those villages and towns have been constantly shelled by Hezbollah, who has fired more than 8,000 rockets into Israel over the last year. So the aim is to push Hezbollah back behind the line of the Litani River, according to the UN Resolution 1701, which is what ended the Second Lebanon War in 2006. I think if Israel gets that in an agreement, or even something close to it, it will prefer not to have a ground incursion into Lebanon, but time will tell.
Time will tell, as it always does in West Asia, Itai. I want to ask General Datta this. General Datta, we've seen over the last 1 year from the 7th of October, where there was an unprecedented intelligence failure, where the Israeli military failed to guess the fact that Hamas was going to attack, that murderous assault that was launched on Israeli civilians. Cut to September of 2024. September 17th, pagers go off, thousands of them targeting Hezbollah. And on the 25th of September, you see an air-to-ground strike of the kind that we haven't possibly seen in the history of counterinsurgency, where something like 80 bombs were used to target Hezbollah chief Nasrallah. Has Israel restored its credibility as a power that does not take terrorism lying down?
Absolutely, Sandeep. Over the years, right from the inception of Israel, if you go back post Second World War and coming into existence as a nation state, they were surrounded by enemies all around. And they had proven their mettle even then, when they were just a nascent nation, and they had repulsed the attack of the Arab countries, a combined assault on them. Ever since then, Israel has been fighting a battle of existence and continuing so while offering an olive branch to the neighbors to live in peace, live in harmony as part of the area, as the Palestinian and the Israelis living together. And the people who have been living within Israel, even the Palestinians, are the Israeli citizens with equal powers, equal benefits and everything. But these people didn't want to accept that. They continued that they will finish Israel. They don't want Israel's existence on the earth, and they don't want the Jews to exist at all.
Right.
So if that be the case, Israel has to fight for its existence. And that has proven over the years, whether it was a Six-Day War coming down and thereafter the subsequent ceasefire with the other Arab countries, including Egypt, Jordan, and the neighborhood. And thereafter, the peace prevailed for quite some time. In fact, the Israelis vacated Gaza voluntarily on their own,
Yes,
and gave the area to the Palestinians to go on. But it was the Hezbollah which continued becoming a militant organization with the same aim that they want to finish Israel. They
Right.
want to kill every Jew in that area. If that be the case, and based on that hatred, they launched that 7 October attack,
Yes.
which was unprecedented. Yes, it took Israel by surprise, because most of the time the raids by Hezbollah were some minor raids there and there,
Yes.
coming into occupies, something like that. But that was a surprise. How that happened, they are carrying out an inquiry on their own. But it's a saying, that the security forces have to be lucky every time, and the terrorist has to be lucky once.
Yes.
So that was that one lucky strike by the Hezbollah, and subsequently Israel immediately...
You mean
launched
the
a
strike by
counter-offensive.
Hamas, General Datta, I must correct you
Yeah.
there, the strike by Hamas on the 7th of October.
Yeah, a strike by Hamas, and on the 8th, supported by the Hezbollah. So
Yes.
yeah, I stand corrected. But now thereafter, Israel immediately launched a counteroffensive.
Yes.
In phase 1, they had decided to finish Hamas.
Right.
So the phase 1 operations are almost completed. Mopping up is going on.
Yes.
In the phase 2, they had to sort out Hezbollah, which has forced the residents of northern Israel to flee their homes. Almost about 60,000 Israeli citizens have to be evacuated from their own homes.
Yes.
And, the attacks by Hezbollah, by rocket, drones, etc., and all that. So therefore, the phase 2 has started now. The phase 2 was very well planned. In fact, right from 2006 onwards, Israel has been planning for this phase of operation.
Yes.
And they have very meticulously launched the operation. They have finished off the command, control, and the communication system of Hezbollah. Now they are striking their capability of striking by rocket,
Yes.
drones, etc., where they have made their silos in the residential areas. That operation is going on. But finally, to make sure that the Israeli citizen can come back to northern Israel, they will have to push back the Hezbollah and create a buffer zone, be up to the Litani River.
Yes.
If it happens by the UN resolution, very good. If it doesn't happen, Israel will definitely have to carry out a ground operation limited to creating a buffer zone.
Right.
Once that is created, Israel is not going to leave it. That buffer zone will remain under Israelis' control to make sure that Hezbollah doesn't attempt any other further attacks on the northern Israelis and cause any damage. Now, as far as the third phase is concerned, the Houthis jumping into the fray.
Yes.
At the Syrian side, the IS groups and the others who are supporting the Iranians, and Iraq now jumping into the fray. So Israel is facing a six-front war at the moment.
Yes.
They have planned their operations very meticulously, and I'm very sure phase 1 is almost over, phase 2 has now started, phase 3 will be Houthis, and phase 4 will be the decimation of the Iranian nuclear capability. You
Right.
mark my word, if not today, 10 days, 1 month hence, the Iranian nuclear capability will be neutralized. And
Yes.
that has been proven by the attack on the Hezbollah headquarters. Tandem GU bomb series being launched one after another. You may go into the depths of the earth, you will be killed, or your installations will be demolished.
Right.
And that is my perception that the phase 4 will be Iran itself.
Right, absolutely. Thank you, General Datta, for summing that up so beautifully for us. I always remember the fact that you've been trained in Israel by the IDF and Sairat Matkal, no less. So you have a perspective that very few Indian veterans do. But this point that you made is very significant. The fact that I was there in Israel just last week, and we were talking to a number of experts, and they told us this, that the reason that Iran has set up this ring of proxies is that so that nobody comes towards Iran itself. This is the outer perimeter of Iran's defense, these proxies. And the inner perimeter, of course, is the state of Iran itself and its nuclear program. So these proxies are basically meant to fight Israel by proxy, of course, and ensure that nobody comes towards the state of Iran and Iran's nuclear weapons program. But the point that you made, and I'm sure the entire world has been watching what happened on the 25th of September, this air-to-ground strikes using Mark 84 bombs. Of nearly 80 tons of ordnance was dropped on that building. And if reports are to be believed, Hassan Nasrallah was killed nearly 30 meters under the ground. That's how deep the bunker buster bombs have penetrated. And if that is the capability that Israel has today, the people running Iran's nuclear weapons program would be very worried indeed. And Ambassador Goel, this point that General Datta made, that it could be Iran's nuclear weapons capability next, because from what we heard from firsthand from Israeli experts last week, they told us that Iran's nuclear weapons capability is a red line, and if Iran were to make a move towards the bomb, which they're very close to, Israel would strike immediately. Your thoughts on this?
Iran is a very puzzling piece in the whole affair this time, I must confess. First of all, to answer your question about the Iran's nuclear weapon, I think Iran's nuclear weapon is like Kohinoor for Iran, or
Right.
Takhte-Taus, which they have got in their museum. And therefore, I'm quite certain that Iran's nuclear weapon program is going to be guarded very, very carefully with all the force
Right.
they have at their disposal. It's not just a question of their nuclear program, but it is a matter of the huge prestige
Yes.
between Iran and not Israel, but Iran and the USA. Because please do remember that Iran has faced sanctions for the last 20 years
Yes.
and lived through the sanctions for the last 20 years, basically to complete their nuclear enrichment and their nuclear program. Therefore, it's going to be very, very heavily guarded. So I don't even know whether it is going to be that easy to attack the nuclear program. It's not a question of simply using the heavy bombs as they use 2,000-pound bombs in the case of Nasrallah,
Yes.
deep penetration. But those are the bombs which USA had provided to Israel already.
Yes.
I believe that is what was used by Israel. Therefore, the question in the case of Iran's nuclear program is not simply the availability of weapons or the availability of the kind of ammunition that is going to be required, but intelligence, information.
Right.
Please do remember that even in the case of elimination of Nasrallah and the attack on Annihilate, if
Yes.
you remember in the guest house in Iran, and then I believe that even Iran's one commander had been killed in Syria. during one of the attacks, or Lebanon, sorry, has been killed during one of the attacks. He has been eliminated, and a huge number. The point really here is, how is Israel getting all this intelligence?
Right.
One after the other, and almost all the source of the intelligence is claimed to be from Iran. Iranians who are supplying information to Israel, like in the case of Haniyeh, within Tehran,
Yes.
when he was attacked. In the case of Nasrallah, the speculations are, again, the intelligence was provided by somebody from Iran. Now, how does it happen that all this information, intelligence is coming from Iran? And that is where the whole thing hinges really. I'm quite certain that if Iran has been lax or quote unquote allowed
Yes.
this information to be leaked to Israel, I'm very deeply suspicious about the whole thing. If this information has been allowed to come to Israel, I'm quite certain that Iran would be doubly cautious about any such information coming to Israel regarding the nuclear program. That is point number one. Point number two, even though that was not a question, but I just wanted to add,
Yes.
I'm seeing a huge period of instability now in the Middle East. Sensex has dropped already 1,000 points.
Yes.
The oil market is going to be very, very volatile, simply for one reason, that even if Hezbollah capacity has been degraded severely,
Yes.
even if Hamas capacity has been degraded severely,
Yes.
please remember that the history of extremism in the Middle East
Yes.
has started by decapitation of 67, the capacity of the Arab state
Yes.
or the Arab people on the street to take on Israel. And therefore, even if Hezbollah is decapitated or degraded, Hamas or Houthis, there are already rumors
Yes.
that ISIS is showing its face again, both in Syria and Iraq. So are we going to face another period of emergence of other terrorist activities in the area?
Right.
And if that happens, how is that going to impact on the situation there? I'm worried about that.
Right, absolutely. Ambassador Goel, thanks for putting that in perspective. The fact that the Middle East could be heading into a fresh period of instability, as Ambassador Goel said, Deepak. But, one of the driving factors in all of this is Iran, and Iran seems to be awfully silent these days. It's been under several attacks. The ball has been in the court of the Iranians on several occasions in the last couple of weeks, and they have chosen not to react. Is there something that's on? Is Tehran stunned, puzzled, confused, or simply too stunned to realize what's going on?
I think all of the above. So when news of the assassination of Nasrallah came about,
Yes.
There were feelings of shock and anger, obviously, in Iran.
Yes.
And as a New York Times report has revealed, so there are two sentiments which are prevailing. On one side, you have the moderates,
Yes.
who are cautioning against any rash decision. They're arguing that any misstep right now will play into the hands of Israel.
Right.
But then you have the hardliners headed by the Ayatollah and supported by people like Saeed Jalili, who are talking about building deterrence by acting before the Israelis
Yes.
do. So this is a question that Iran will have to answer sooner rather than later.
General Datta, Iran's options now, it's been under relentless assault over the last couple of days. Its proxies are under fire. Like you mentioned, its nuclear program could be next. Why is Iran so awfully quiet these days?
See, the thing is that if you remember the statement made by Mr. Netanyahu in the United Nations General
Yes.
Assembly, he said that anyone who attacks us, we are going to attack back.
Right.
And Iran should realize that there is no place in Iran which the Israelis cannot reach.
Yes.
So it was an indirect warning to Iran that you try anything more, we are going
Right.
to come back.
Right.
We are going to come and hit you.
Absolutely.
And not only
yes.
that, the Americans also warned the Iranians, don't jump into the fray after the assassination of Nasrallah.
Right.
So America has given a warning. America has also made a statement that America and the allies are going to stand behind Israel if anything happens to the contrary or any other people getting together to attack Israel. So, therefore, one thing is clear that the Americans are standing behind Israel. And therefore, now it is a grave situation for Iran how to save their face.
Right.
All the proxies are getting hit.
Yes.
They are being massacred by the Israeli defense forces, by the Israeli Air Force, and the Iranians have become a mute spectator.
Right.
What reputation is left of Iran now?
Absolutely. Itai,
How
why
now
is Iran,
motivated?
General Datta, I'm going to ask Itai this question. Why is Iran so awfully quiet these days? They've been under attack. Their proxies are under attack. They just had a new president, and they've not responded to any of these attacks so far. Why is Tehran so awfully quiet?
That's a very good question. I've been pondering it myself, and I have to say that I don't like the answer I came up with. But I think it is quite safe to say that the Iranians would prefer that the Biden administration, or let's say the Harris administration, wins the elections, and therefore it's in their interest not to spike anything that might harm that. Now, one of the things that is not good for an incumbent president is a rise of prices of oil.
Yes.
And we actually currently see that the oil is at one of its lowest points over the last 12 months, despite the Houthis still attacking, maybe a bit less. So it is certainly in the interest of the US administration to keep that low, and therefore a regional blowout is certainly against their interest. I just wonder what has been offered to the Iranians or promised to them after the elections if they do sit this one out quietly. So that is one point to consider. But for sure, Iranians are very good at long-term planning.
Yes.
Sometimes they don't rush and do things in too rush a way. So we still have to wait and see about that. And I hope I'm wrong. But
Right, a very interesting take there, Itai, the fact that we have to wait and watch. And Iranians are masters of the long game, and indeed that seems to be the case with what they've done, setting up these proxies so many decades ago, waiting for the opportunity to strike, but it's all coming unstuck. Ambassador Goel, quick point before we wrap.
Yes, very, very briefly. You see, Iranian silence is very, very puzzling. Please do remember that when Hamas attacked on 7th October,
Yes.
very, very terrifying thing, diabolical. Could they have done it without Iran's complicity? Number two, if they did that, I'm sure Hamas knew that IDF is going to come back heavily
Yes.
against them in Gaza, and they will practically destroy Gaza. That was a given, really.
Yes.
And despite all this, they took a chance. Could they do so without Iran's understanding of the situation? Therefore, I would say that Iran's silence is very, very puzzling. It is simply not understandable at all. And we may have few more pieces to fall in place
Yes.
before we can decipher what Iran is thinking.
Absolutely. Spot on, Ambassador Goel. Iran's silence, very, very puzzling. Israel's just taken revenge for those attacks on its civilians. It's struck back at Hezbollah. It's neutralized Hamas, more or less. It's going after the Houthis. But the one question that we've still not got an answer for is, why is Iran silent? Why is Tehran silent? Why are those pieces, what are those pieces indeed that are yet to fall into place? Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us this evening. A very engaging discussion on Israel's revenge. This is a story we've been tracking very closely over the last year, and we'll continue to do so. Thank you very much for joining us. Deepak Badana, my colleague, continues to remain with me in the studio.